Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We've got Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Trade and Investment. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Okay.
We're speaking about this ease of doing business. Tell us what's going on.
Should I start from the very beginning?
We hope you can.
Everybody knows now that the administration has taken this on as really a legacy project, that it cannot be that difficult. Nigeria is not a unique environment. So we took it as a serious challenge to make sure that the business climate is more conducive for Nigerian businesses and also international investors. So last year, we started initial work on it, and then we scoped that, look, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Countries have done this. Rwanda, Botswana, Kenya, Georgia. So we looked for a model that could work for Nigeria. And that's how the Presidential Enabling Environment Council, Business Council, came about. It was inaugurated in July 2016 by Mr. President. It's chaired by His Excellency the Vice President, about 10 ministers, the Central Bank Governor, the Head of Service, a representative of the National Assembly, Lagos State, Kano State, and the private sector.
So what model is that you adopted?
Our model.
Okay. It's strictly homegrown?
No. So what the elements are, we looked at these countries that I mentioned, and we saw that the elements are strong political will. There needs to be collaboration. You can't do it in silos. So the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, who is the Vice Chair of the Council, a lot of the issues sit on his lap, but he can't do it alone. So you need interministerial collaboration, you need strong political will, you need to collaborate with the private sector. So we looked at the models and we came up with what works for Nigeria.
Okay, looking at, because you said, you have to look at what can work for not just those who want to come and do business here, but for businesses here. We saw the MBS data. They talk about over 3 million jobs being lost in a year. It shows that some companies here are struggling. What are we doing about those companies, for instance?
So I'll tell you, this project is actually targeted at MSMEs. And the reason is that we believe that big corporates have access to power. A lot of big multinationals and even very big Nigerian companies can get access to the minister, to the presidency, but we want systemic change. And if you want systemic change, you have to go to the heart, the engine of the economy, which are SMEs, companies that employ like 10 to 50 people. That's really the target, so that they don't need to know anybody to have the rules, the processes laid out on a website. They didn't need to know anybody to be able to access credit, have access to power, ease of paying taxes.
What have you done to make access to credit easier for that category, the MSMEs?
Okay, so in this 60-day plan for access to credit, we're looking at two specific things, and they're legal. So we noticed that for MSMEs to be able to access credit, even though there's some pools of credit available government-wide, and then there's, of course, the banks. We're trying to encourage banks. You heard Bayo just talking about banks not really wanting to embrace. And it's not because they just hate SMEs. It's because it's a risky and you need a lot of capacity to really track down, because there might be governance issues, accounting issues. They're growing companies, so you'd expect that. So we're working on collateral registry bill to make sure that you can use your movable property as collateral to access credit, so that banks will be more comfortable to lend to MSMEs. And then the second thing we're looking at is the credit bureaus. We want more people registered on the credit bureaus. In other economies, you have a credit history. In fact, people use their credit cards just to be able to build credit history for the day they need it. So it's the same thing for MSMEs and even the individuals, all of us. We need credit histories. So we're trying to encourage our credit bureaus as well. So we're looking at two laws that are prioritized under the 60-day plan, and we're working with the National Assembly to make sure that they're passed before the end of April.
Okay. Do you think that this 60-day plan, is it a sufficient time? People are concerned that perhaps it's too short.
I don't think so. So it's not haphazard. We started implementing our reform agenda in October. We had 3 priority areas that we started with: entry and exit of goods because of the ports and because of our diversification push, entry and exit of people because we have taken the airports as a national embarrassment, and then transparency. Just transparency, government websites, putting up information, the processes, the cost, the time, who is responsible. So that's what we started with from October. Then in January, we did some scoping, and we did this process actually last year. Not many people know. Last year, we focused on 5 indicators, now looking at the World Bank ranking as an empirical tool to see what to focus on. So there are a lot of things to focus on, but you need to have priorities and you need to be strategic and some focus. So from January this year, we did another round of scoping with private sector, with public sector, with MDAs, and we looked at 7 areas, 8 plus entry and exit of people, that we can really have some quick traction. So there are things that are short term, which we've pulled into 60 days. There are things that are medium term, and there are things that are long term. So what you see in the 60-day plan is not like our long term, it's the first tranche. You'll even see more things by Q3 this year. We're going regional. There's going to be a sub-national ranking for the whole country. So we're going around different states. This is just the beginning. There are other issues that affect MSMEs disproportionately, like NAFDAC, like SON. There are other issues like NOTAP. We're coming. It's just like, yeah.
So how do you plan to incorporate the states in this one? Because people do businesses in different states.
Exactly, yeah. So what we say is that we want the testimonials of Nigerians across the country to tell us that things are getting easier. At a federal level, yes, it's covered. But we're working with state governments already, with Lagos and Kano very closely. And there are other states that are very serious about ease of doing business. Kaduna, Anambra, Ogun. We're already in touch with some of these states. But as a systematic project, it's starting around July.
Okay, because I know that the impression people have about doing business with government agencies, when you ask them first and foremost, is there's a lot of uncertainty, people don't know what to expect. So what is being done about that? For instance, there's a recent argument about custom duty. I mean, several people were asked, they don't exactly know the exact fare it is that you need to pay or custom duty at any point in time. What is being done to ensure that, one, we depersonalize those and ensure that at whatever stage, wherever you go to, just as you see in Western countries, the embassies, whoever you meet, if they check your documents, the standard is the same. However you see there, you know what to expect, you know what to get. What are we doing to achieve that kind of scenario?
So actually we started on that last year. That's one of the first things we took on, government transparency. And if you go on a lot of websites, including customs, there have been reforms. Sometimes people have the bad experience and they haven't really bothered to go, their hope is dampened. But I'll encourage everybody to go back to websites, immigration, customs. You'll see that now we've already insisted, there's now a criteria for a lot of these websites, and we're actually ranking the MDAs. We took about 30 of them that impact the business climate. And we had a reform leader working on that with them. Your website needs to have the deadlines, the processes, the cost, whether it's NPA, whether it's Shippers Council, a lot of them. So we've been working on that with them. Some are more advanced levels, some were more like basic, but all of them. These are the things, this is what, so a lot of websites will tell you about the history of the organization, who the people are, who the DG is. And we started working on them that, look, the aim of this website is not to advertise the MDA, but to actually communicate to the person visiting your site the critical information that they want to know.
So does it mean then that if one goes to one of those websites, say immigration, passport office,
pull it up now.
What they say is the requirement is what they'll ask of you when you get that, nothing extra?
Yes. In fact, what the council has said is that if there's a discrepancy, what is on the website is what should obtain. When you come to timelines, what we're trying to correct is some rent-seeking behaviors, some indiscipline, time-wasting behaviors, because what affects MSMEs the most is cost and then time.
Time wasting.
Yeah.
The airlines.
Because they don't have, people to sit around in an office all day.
I know the VP, while he was acting president, was also in some of the airports. I mean, almost, we get the NCA people, they tell us that you're supposed to have the passenger bill of rights right there at the airport. We've been there several times. You don't get to see that. You have to deliberately look for desks or agencies to complain to. Passengers' times are wasted for 4 hours. Airlines don't give you any sort of compensation. What's happening to all of those?
You'll notice gradually, it's not like, none of this is automatic. There's no magic wand. But we're working on these issues line by line. You will notice Lagos Airport, even before His Excellency visited, the signage had changed, the lighting. We've been working on some of the hygiene elements.
Were
the
they
comfort.
expecting him before they did
No,
that?
they were not expecting him.
Oh, okay.
They were not.
What kind of political statements do you think, in your views, will spur the support for MSMEs, knowing very well that in the past year and a half or thereabout, we've had $80 billion or thereabout $50 billion, according to investors, that have moved out of the country, that's plunged us into recession. How can your plan be some sort of support to our quest to get out of recession?
So you see, we work very closely with the NIPC, the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. What we've decided to focus on primarily is building the domestic investors' confidence. Because a lot of Nigerians actually invest in Ghana, in Rwanda. Yeah. And we believe that when Nigerians believe in the Nigerian economy, then FDI would not be a problem at all. You know, Nigerians, and that's why when people say, oh, you're focusing on the rankings, it's not really about rankings for Nigeria, because even at our poor state of ranking, we were the top grossing FDI economy on the continent because of our market size, because of oil. So our issues are really quite different. When we encourage Nigerian investors, when we make them happy to be home, when we make sure that the things that irritate them are removed, time wasting, opaqueness, lack of clarity, when they're given courteous service by government agencies, when they see that we actually value them, because I know Nigerians that export through Ghana, I know Nigerians that export through Kenya, their products. So they're not even attributed as made in Nigeria products. So when we make them proud to be a player in the Nigerian economy, others it wouldn't even be a thing for, because sometimes even foreign investors are sort of more comfortable here. In the past, there's been a lot of attention, and we've flipped that in this administration. Our primary focus is Nigerian MSMEs.
Okay, we'll go to break, but we'll come back and take a look at some of those. And okay, I see people already writing in questions for you.
I can imagine.
Join us again.
Yeah.